My lord, there is a ton of stuff going on with the Red Sox right now. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. Look, there may have not been any actual movement by the Boston Red Sox yesterday. Nothing signed, nothing traded, but my God, did we get basically every single report or rumor that we could physically handle here. It appears as though the Red Sox are in on just about everybody. So my original plan was to try and wrap up the entirety of the full first day of the winter meetings here into one succinct video, but I genuinely don't know if we're going to fit it all. So we got to kind of start powering through this thing, and we're going to start with the newest rumors surrounding the Red Sox and the trade market. Specifically, the Red Sox have gotten to the point of exchanging names with the Arizona Diamondbacks for Ketel Marte, but that's about as far as it's gotten so far. Rob Bradford reporting earlier yesterday that there isn't a ton of momentum with the deal, with Alex Spear adding in that he's heard that other teams are being a bit more aggressive in their pursuit at the moment. I want to put these in here specifically because both of these reports are kind of exactly what we heard basically 24 to 48 hours before the Boston Red Sox traded for Garrett Crochet, right? I think the most important thing to take out of this is that the Red Sox are having conversations about Ketel Marte, right? That they're interested in Ketel Marte to the point where names are being exchanged. Things can change incredibly quickly with these winter meetings, so definitely a name to keep an eye on if you're a Red Sox fan. One name to maybe kind of push to the side, at least for now, is definitely Joe Ryan, though, because it appears as though that is officially shelved for now. Again, according to Rob Bradford's reporting, the Red Sox have drawn back their pursuit of Joe Ryan. This comes after the Twins made it pretty publicly known that they're not planning on moving on from him this offseason. Feels a tad bit like a no, I didn't want to get him first type conversation, right? Not so much a hey, we're actually not super interested in Joe Ryan type conversation. So we'll see. Maybe those talks pick up later on in the offseason, but for now, I would start thinking about other options outside of Joe Ryan. One thing that was kind of interesting in Rob Bradford's report here is that it appears as though the Red Sox weren't interested in discussing Conley early in any deal regarding Joe Ryan, which to me indicates that the Red Sox are more willing to part with Payton Tolle than they are Conley early at this moment. I would have figured it would have been pretty much the exact opposite of that, right? Where they'd be more willing to talk about Conley early because of how he performed at the major league level this year, as opposed to Payton Tolle, who has the higher ceiling. But interestingly, it feels like the Red Sox are holding on to Conley early a bit tighter here. And speaking of trading pitching talent, or potentially trading pitching talent, that's one thing that has stood out in terms of yesterday's trade market report / rumors for the Boston Red Sox. Multiple different sources have said that the Red Sox, or have heard that the Red Sox are open to trading from their major league level starting pitching in the coming days. A little bit of a switch up from what we've heard that they're focusing on, right? Coming into the winter meetings, we heard a lot about the Red Sox outfield, right? And that these guys are going to be sort of towards the forefront of the Red Sox trade conversations. Guys like Jarren Duran, guys like Willie Abreu, potentially even guys like, say, Don Rafaela, who Chris Cotillo really appears to be the only one who continues to beat that drum. Everyone else is like, nah, it feels like the Red Sox are pretty set on having, say, Don Rafaela on their roster next year. Even a guy like Tristan Casas was mentioned quite a few times coming into this winter meetings, but really the standout right now is the Red Sox pitching staff. Craig Breslow himself said that they would be open to trading one of their major league starters. Specifically, the names that we've seen pop up were from Sean McAdam, who said that yesterday they were looking at Hunter Dobbins, Cutter Crawford, and Patrick Sandoval and fielding calls in terms of their trades. It would be unreal funny if the Red Sox ended up trading Patrick Sandoval and he just never pitched a single inning for the Boston Red Sox. I mean, low-key, that does kind of feel like maybe best-case scenario for the Red Sox, right? Because I genuinely don't know where they're going to fit Patrick Sandoval in on this roster. In terms of Dobbins and Cutter, this to me makes perfect sense, right? If you're trying to deal from the depth within your rotation, both of these guys, maybe not in terms of the way they pitch, but in terms of their actual spot on this roster, feel like a pretty duplicated match, right? It feels like both of these guys are destined to be sort of back-end arms for the Boston Red Sox in that 4 or 5 hole, so it makes sense that they're willing to move on from one of them. And then obviously we've had the conversation about Tolle and Conley early, and the fact that the Red Sox are at least willing to listen in terms of who they could potentially get back for either one of these guys. But again, it feels like the Red Sox are putting it as early and then Tolle as opposed to Tolle and then early. Now, in terms of who the Red Sox are looking to get for one of these starters, that's a little bit of an interesting conversation. The biggest report that we've heard in terms of new names added to the Red Sox trade list is earlier this morning, actually, the Red Sox being connected to Isaac Paredes, who is currently a corner infielder for the Houston Astros. It makes a lot of sense why the Red Sox would be interested in this guy, right? He's a pull-happy righty who has had 30 home runs in a season before. Last year with the Astros, it was actually a pretty solid year. He was an all-star. He had 254 with a 352 on base percentage and a 458 slug for 123 OPS plus. Now, the Astros are currently asking for Tolle or early, which color me shocked, right? I feel like if anyone is going to open up trade conversations with the Red Sox, it is going to start with those two guys. So we'll see how this one progresses, but that appears to be the name at the front of this list. However, we don't have time for statistics because we got a whole lot more to talk about. So let's move on to the free agent rumors or reports or news, whatever you want to call it. To me, in terms of free agents, the biggest news we got for the Boston Red Sox yesterday was the fact that the Red Sox actually have met with free agent Bo Bichette. The specific news was that the Red Sox had a Zoom call with Bichette recently, and that apparently it went really well for both sides, with Bichette reportedly coming away really impressed with the Red Sox being serious about Bichette. I don't know what to make about this whole Bichette thing. It feels like the Red Sox have been super connected to Bichette recently, right? This is the third or fourth time over the last week we've talked about the Red Sox interest in Bo Bichette or potential interest in Bo Bichette. This is obviously the first time that we've seen some legitimate movement on the Bo Bichette front at all in terms of anything. What the real reality is here, because part of me feels like this is sort of that Juan Soto thing again, right? Where it's like, oh, he's super impressed. Oh, he's got connection to the Red Sox. Oh, this feels like a perfect match. And then ultimately he signs with the team and it's revealed that the Red Sox were like a distant fourth place or whatever it may end up being. Part of me also feels like this could be a little bit of posturing from the Boston Red Sox where they're trying to make it a little bit more pressure packed for Alex Bregman to come back here. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But the third part of me does kind of feel like the Red Sox are actually genuinely interested in Bo Bichette. And you can kind of understand why, right? You look at the bat profile and you say, this is a guy who makes a ton of contact. This is a guy who would probably pepper the monster really, really well. I feel like he would be kind of adjacent to what Alex Bregman looked like in a Red Sox uniform here, but he's much younger. He's not going to play shortstop. We know that for sure, so he's most likely a second baseman here with the Red Sox. Automatically improve his defense, right? You talk about the mold of players the Red Sox are kind of focusing on right now in Craig Breslow's tenure here. It's a lot of these young, can fit the same core type players, and Bo Bichette feels like he's right in that same area. If the Red Sox are going to spend money on a guy, it makes a lot of sense as to why it could potentially be Bo Bichette. But I also understand that this could end up being posturing, right? We did hear this morning that Alex Bregman is still the Red Sox number one priority. And this is the first time we've heard the Red Sox number one priority this offseason being Alex Bregman. Ken Rosenthal reported specifically, quote, free agent Alex Bregman still appears to be the Red Sox number one target, in part because of the defensive upgrade he provided over Rafael Devers. Really interesting to me that this was the highlight here, right? That it wasn't so much Bregman's bat, it was Bregman's defense. I feel like we spent most of this offseason talking about how Bregman's bat impacts this lineup, how Alonso or whoever's bat impacts this lineup, but you also got to think about the guys that the Red Sox have brought in terms of the pitching staff, who they could still potentially bring in terms of the pitching staff, and how much better those guys would be with a solid foundational infield behind them. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me why the Red Sox would be valuing defense right now, and I think that is part of their focus coming into this offseason. The other sort of bigger free agent news we got yesterday is that Pete Alonso is making the long and strenuous drive from Tampa to Orlando today to meet with some teams about potentially signing with these guys. And of course, the Boston Red Sox have been rumored to be on this list. Now, I say rumored and not confirmed because there's a little bit of a debate as to whether or not the Red Sox are actually on here. Now, the New York Post is reporting that the Red Sox are definitively on this list along with the Baltimore Orioles, whereas the Red Sox beat reporter Sean McAdam said that someone within the Red Sox organization told him possibly but not confirmed who he's meeting with. to me, this makes perfect sense, right? If you're the Boston Red Sox, there's absolutely no reason for all of a sudden you to be totally transparent with the players that you're talking to, right? They have been unbelievably secretive, unbelievably sort of non-forthcoming with the moves that they're trying to make this offseason. Why would they all of a sudden be like, you know what? Actually, yeah, we are meeting with this guy. Yeah, we're planning on offering him a contract. Yeah, we're totally in on Pete Alonso coming to the Boston Red Sox, right? It just doesn't make sense. So, of course, they're going to sit there and they're going to say, yeah, maybe. To me, I firmly believe that the Red Sox are meeting with Pete Alonso today. I firmly believe that the Red Sox really like the fit of Pete Alonso on this team, and they really like the length of the contract that they're looking to get right now, because it appears as though it's not going to be that 5, 6, 7 years. It's going to be that 3 or 4 year deal, which obviously makes a whole lot more sense for this ball club. So I'm still keeping my Pete Alonso radar fully open today. I think that's a name that could end up being a domino that falls early on in this winter meetings. It does appear as though actually that Kyle Schwarber is sort of what's holding up the free agent market for bats. A lot of guys are waiting until he signs. Chris Ketel reporting yesterday that he feels like Kyle Schwarber is going to be the first name that ends up coming off the board here, and then that's going to open the floodgates. So we're all kind of waiting on Kyle Schwarber right now. Red Sox are still involved with Kyle Schwarber, but it's overwhelmingly right now feeling like the Phillies are going to end up retaining him. Honestly, I kind of hope the Phillies end up retaining him, because if they don't, Dave Dombrowski is going to go crazy for one of these other guys, and basically immediately it's going to be like 2 names are off the board. It would be fantastic if the Red Sox still had the pick of the litter here. And one thing that's interesting to me about this Alonso stuff is that the Baltimore Orioles are involved here, right? We know they had new ownership. We just haven't heard a ton about them wanting to spend more. If the Orioles start spending, I'm a little bit terrified, right? You're already competing with the Blue Jays and the Yankees. If you add the Orioles into here, you're talking about probably the most brutal division in baseball. It just highlights the need for the Red Sox to really start making some impact move, really start bolstering this lineup and bolstering this rotation, just bolstering everything as much as humanly possible here. It raises the stakes for this offseason quite a bit. Now, there were some smallish, or I would say outlandish reports as well that were surrounding the Boston Red Sox. Some of the smaller ones are things like the Red Sox having mutual interest in bringing Rob Refsnyder back into this ball club, right? I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. He was a leader in the clubhouse. He was a really solid platoon bat for the Red Sox for a couple of years now. They did say that his market is pretty robust this offseason. Also, not something I'm super surprised with. Honestly, I'm kind of 50-50 on Rob Refsnyder. I could sit here and totally see why the Red Sox would bring him back. I can also sit here and totally understand why the Red Sox would let him go to another ball club, especially if there's a better offer on the table. Some of the more outlandish reports are things like the Red Sox having expressed interest in a guy like Kyle Teal, who for some reason the Chicago White Sox are fielding offers on. That would be the most balls on the table type move from Craig Breslow. Imagine one winter meetings, you trade Kyle Teal to get Garrett Crochet, you lock that dude up for 6 years, and then a meeting later, you go and you bring back Kyle Teal. That would be unbelievable. Now, personally, I'm not letting myself get too into the weeds with this Kyle Teal rumor. To me, this feels like an unbelievable long shot and just an unrealistic reality. And if I start thinking about it, I start getting excited about it. So I'm just not going to think about it all that much. Some of the other sort of smaller news items is that the Red Sox appear to be talking to at least 3 or 4 other teams outside of Ketel Marte for a potential trade for a bat. Now, we know one of them is Isaac Paredes because we talked about him earlier, but who those other 3-ish teams could be, we have absolutely no idea, and that feels like a really big Breslow thing right now, right? Just make the weirdest possible connection you can and trade for that guy as opposed to going for the most obvious name. The Red Sox have been really good at keeping things really quiet and under wraps this offseason, so it feels like anytime you get a big rumor, it's like, is that actually happening, or are the Red Sox focusing on something else? So that one really stood out to me for sure, and overall, I mean, like I said, there are a ton of things in here, right? I mean, we could go down the list. There's 6 or 7 names here that the Red Sox have been connected to. They've got their hands in every single bucket right now, which I do think is a good thing, right? If they're looking to truly make impactful additions to this lineup or to this team in general, they should be looking at every single option. I just hope that they aren't spreading themselves too thin. The worst thing they can do is sit here with a ton of different options waiting to decide and lose out on the guys that you wanted the most. The biggest thing the Red Sox need to do this offseason offseason is be decisive, be legitimately pick out your targets, and those are the guys you're going for 100% as opposed to going for 7 different guys 50%. So I'm hoping we start to see a little bit of narrowing of these subjects over the course of the next coming days. Obviously, them actually making a move would limit this a little bit, but we'll kind of see how they come out of winter meetings and what sort of the vibe is. There are a couple things I do want to shout out. Shout out Tyler Milliken, who has been unbelievable at tweeting out every single thing that gets reported. I wouldn't have half of this information if he wasn't on Twitter doing that. So I'm assuming most of you guys follow him, but follow him if you don't. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think about these rumors? Is there anything in here that really stands out to you above everything else? Is there anything in here that you're sitting there saying this is total smoke and mirrors? Let me know all your thoughts. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton. Best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.